So I wanted us to review this show, the Necessary Conversation, because you'll see how similar it is to our family and like the political aspect of it, and how sometimes how it goes down in our family when we have those discussions and the differences in view. Um, but I do think it's a good thing to have those more difficult conversations, especially when there is discourse, just to learn from one another and possibly get different perspectives. It's just really hard for people to stay not as emotional, and like angry and on the defense as well. But anyway, so I wanted to show you this and see your thoughts about it.
The Necessary Conversation.
What are you doing?
Thumbnails, thumbprints, whatever they're called. Thumbnails, whatever
All
they're
right. Welcome to the Necessary Conversation. I'm Chad Kulchin. With me is, as always, my lefty sister, Haley Pope, and my parents, Bob and Mary Lou Kulchin, who are deep in the MAGA pit. If you're joining us for the first time in this podcast, we talk about the four, maybe this week, hopefully the six big political issues of last week and how everybody is feeling about all of them. Sometimes we start off this very program with what my mom likes to call her ditties. These are just little one-off ideas or events that happen over the course of the week that you like to highlight. Mom, do you have any ditties this week for us?
Yes, you remembered. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Friday, March 14th, the state of Oklahoma was in an emergency situation. We had winds that were 75 to 80 miles an hour. It was the worst wind we've ever experienced since living in the state. Due to the high winds, then they just sparked fires that were popping up all over the state.
So,
Same.
Dad, when the fires were breaking out in LA a few months ago, you said everybody here deserves what they get. Do you still feel that same way about the people in Oklahoma, your home state?
Sure.
I say you should have got out of there quicker, and then it wouldn't have affected you. I wanted you to move. I still want you to move out of there.
I want you to move out of Oklahoma now that there's fires.
Okay.
Tough shit.
I'll take a hurricane. I'll take a tornado over a fire.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Just off the beginning, do you think this is something that our family could sit down and talk about? And if so, who?
Honestly, not without getting really fired up real fast. I think I could keep it under control the longest, believe it or not. Sean, he'd go ballistic the first time he said something about Musk. Your mom would go ballistic the first time he said something about Trump. So
I think, like, as we watch this, I really do think that it's something that puts to light a situation that isn't really talked about, right? Like families that are split up, and what do you do with that? And how do you know, some of these core issues are morally taxing on people, ethically. Some people are religiously different. And I feel like a lot of the online streams and definitely like mainstream media don't ever really highlight those huge differences in regular families, and what they have to go through and deal with when it comes to divides like this, you know?
now the only thing I've ever heard is how the progressives have said, well, I disown my family, or I'm not going to have a dinner with them, or I'm not talking to them anymore. Or that's the only thing I've heard. I haven't heard anything from the right wing side um, saying of that nature. I haven't heard that. But of course, you're only getting one side of the story too. The right wing's only going to show you the bad things that the progressives are saying. They're not going to cut down their own side. As with the progressives, they're not cutting down their own side either. So, it's until people start using logic, there's going to be huge disparities. Period. And as far as the two things that break up a family the fastest, and you know what they are, is politics and religion. You just can't discuss them at length with any sense of calm or logic, because after so long a time of talking about either one of them, somebody's going to get triggered. Some button's going to get pushed, and then it's going off the rails.
I agree. Why do you think that is, though?
Now, there's a lot of different reasons. People believe what they believe. influenced too much by what they've heard without doing their own investigations. You know, if unfortunately there's not a good enough access to true fact unless you do your own investigations. And what are the sources of those? You know, can you believe those sources?
Who's got the time to do that? I mean, even
Exactly.
in doing this shit, Dad, like I spend hours every day going through stuff. It's crazy going through 20 of a paragraph long each. My gosh, that's still a long time. And then to pull it together in a cohesive and cogent idea and present it, logically to make sense. I mean, it's a lot of work for somebody that wants to do it, let alone somebody that's like, dude, I'm tired. I just worked 8 hours. I'm over it. I don't want to go and spend 2 hours researching whether or not this is real or that's real or this is true or that's true and how is this going to affect me and where's that going to go. But it is kind of crazy. Like today when I had called you and told you that I was looking at different articles and stuff, and I found two that were related to Illinois, and the fact that
I
you
didn't
and
know
I
anything
both,
about it.
exactly, neither one of us would have known anything about it had I not sat there and spent hours just going through. I was literally looking for like Midwest news, since that's where we're at, and I don't feel that's another reason why I wanted to show you this to see, because this is really rare. This I feel like is majority of the Midwest and what they're dealing with. I feel like the coasts don't get it unless they're from the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like, but you have a lot of Midwestern families that are really split. Um, and I feel like they're not as represented. This family is from Kansas City, Missouri. They just so happen to have moved everywhere else, but you can tell that obviously, there's some difference there. I don't know. I don't feel like this difference in families is highlighted enough, honestly. And nobody hears about a lot of shit.
You're actually going to give up your family or your family time because you disagree with what they think? That don't even make sense to me. But it is what it is.
To an extent, I understand if it's a matter of certain moral and ethical foundational policies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how far do you go, and what are you really solving when you just walk away?
You're not solving anything. All you're doing is causing more grief and strife in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what's the end result? More misery for yourself?
Right. Here.
We move on to that portion of the program where we take a question from somebody out there listening to this very podcast. We're getting a lot of questions now. We had some TikToks kind of blow up. You all right, Dad? You with us?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to play a question now from a listener. If you have a question that you want to send us, just put it in a 1 minute or shorter audio or video clip and send it to the necessary conversation pod at gmail.com. Are you ready for the question of this week?
Hi, Colchin family. My question is for Mary Lou. On last week's episode, you accused Chad of playing the cancer card.
Oh,
And
nice.
then later on in the episode, you were really angry about congressional Democrats not standing up and clapping for a 13-year-old who also has cancer. And I guess you could say was playing a cancer card. So I guess my question for you is, when would it be an appropriate time for Chad to play the cancer card? Thanks so much. Keep up the great work.
There you have it. Oh,
Whoops.
there we go. So there you go, Mom. The question is,
Well,
when is it appropriate to play the cancer card? Because you very much did say to me, don't play the cancer card when I was talking about myself having cancer and Trump cutting cancer research funding.
but you were using your cancer in regard to the kid, and it was like opposite. You were doing opposite. I don't even know how to explain it. I probably
Okay.
shouldn't have said that. I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Your cancer was not only yours, it was all of ours. And you know that. I was not,
So you're playing my cancer card now.
it affected all of us.
So there is no appropriate time to play the cancer card. Is that your final conclusion?
Yep, done. Out.
Okay. Now, hey, why are you doing that? Where are you going? So this is like a tactic that you guys use all the time in these conversations where you're just like, I'm not talking anymore. Fuck you. And then you walk off, or you pretend to be mock offended or whatever when it's a question that you don't want to answer. But part of this whole show is that you have to stand here and you got to answer. You got to have the conversation to have the necessary conversation.
That's the point. Chad, at the beginning, he does tend to start it even off a little charged on the left, you know? Obviously, the questions he chooses is to get a rise. And I do think that he chooses topics sometimes to get a rise as well.
See,
Which,
I'm gathering that he's a little bit more leftist,
yeah. But
and
this,
the sister's a progressive,
yeah.
and the parents are ultra conservative. That's
Mhm.
where I'm gathering at just first sight of the show.
Yeah, very much so. That's why I say it's a really interesting dynamic, and it's so familiar to what we have, you know, with everybody being different.
As a teacher, one of these big changes that you think is necessary is kids no longer receiving free breakfast and lunch at school who can't afford it. Are you down for that?
No,
Yeah.
I don't like that. I do like this, though. I want all 11th graders or 12th graders to be able to read and do
Right.
arithmetic and write.
And you think
That's
getting rid of the
all
Department
over
of
the country
Education is
right
going to do
now.
that?
Yeah, that's
I
gone.
also want teachers to be able to teach.
But you think getting rid of the Department of Education is going
Yeah.
to make our education system better?
Yes.
It will go to the states, and each state is going to know if they
What
have
will
an
go to the
11th grader
states?
that can read or
Uh-huh.
cannot, and how to make the change.
Right.
They're
So
not
the
telling
federal
teachers.
Hang on
federal
a second.
government doesn't know, and the lady who runs not the Department of Education but runs the union,
Uh-huh.
she's a fucking deadbeat piece of shit.
What they're doing is making the states
agree.
be able to make up the decisions for the students to do what's right for each kid.
Right. But do you think that that's like some states want to teach hardcore Bible shit?
Yeah.
You think that's right?
They
Sure.
also want to
You mean-
eliminate programs for kids in special ed, kids
Yeah.
with disabilities.
Yeah, that is not right. That's not right.
Well, that's going to be
Gotta give
done.
up
Give
That's
them
the first-
money.
You guys have this magical solution for things like if you don't like it, move out of your state. Most
Yeah.
people can't do that
Why not?
because they
Money.
don't have the money to do it.
Why not?
Stop it.
Could you have just moved a state without, back when you were working, could you
Yeah.
have just fucking packed it up and moved? No,
We
you
did.
have to find another job.
We did.
You moved with the job. Not everyone can fucking find another job.
That's
Yeah.
when you get involved in your politics in your state
That's
and make
when-
changes.
That's when you wish you'd have got a better education.
Okay,
Our
but they're getting rid of the Department of Education. So how do you get a better education?
Bad
They're
enough.
not
They
your
also, how much is a banana? $10. That's like the
For
world
real.
you live in.
Oh,
Yep.
stop it. If you don't,
My banana is not
I just
$10.
bought 5 bananas and it wasn't $50. I can guarantee you that one.
How much is your banana, Dad?
Huh?
How much is your banana?
Less than $1.
It's less than that. Okay, now listen.
I eat 5 of them a day.
My train of thought, which was very good, just went away. What was my train? He does. He eats about 5 of them a day. It's ridiculous. What was my train of
That's
thought?
not what they were
perfect food.
meaning.
Oh, I know what it is. If you don't like, let's say all this is going to be changed. Everything's
Yeah.
going to be mixed up. You don't like where you're at with your kids' education. Guess what? Which a lot of my friends have already done. You can homeschool them.
How you gonna
school them
work?
yourself. What?
How are you going to work? How do you go to work when you got to homeschool a kid all
Could
day?
you have homeschooled me and Haley?
I probably could have. I would have went
That's
to school,
bullshit.
taught school, came home, homeschooled you, done the test with you, helped you do research. Yes, I probably could have. Because I'm a
So what
multitasker.
are we?
Hello.
So what are we doing as elementary age children all day long at home while you're at work? What are we doing?
Eating bananas.
You need to. Can you afford childcare?
Damn
I
right.
don't know. There was okay.
Brain
let's
food.
go
You,
two
you ought to
steps
strap
back.
on about 5 a day.
Let's go 2 steps.
What do you think so far about?
Well, the old man is definitely old school. I mean, he is true baby boomer. You know,
Yeah.
I think the mom's trying to be logical. She just don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
And the other two, no, I disagree with them. I don't think everything that is put out there is accurate. Not saying it's not within the realm of a possibility, like food programs being cut for children. I haven't heard one thing about the Department of Education saying that will no longer be. I have seen nothing that is part of cutting the Department of Education. Personally, you know, Sean had a good point in that. So where's all this money going for the states? It's going to go to charter schools and private schools and stuff. Who's going to get the vouchers to go there? Yeah, these are things they have to be concerned about. Cool. But they need better public schools. The Department of Education doesn't supply that. They don't even give the criteria for it. They really don't. They're just, in my opinion, they are just taking money and not doing what's supposed to be done with it. These kids are not being taught. How many people have you run into, young people, have you run into, can't count change? They don't know how to spell words. They don't even know what
So,
some words mean.
so the concern there is just like, a lot of people on the right were like, how you can't defund the police, making things safer. You can't take it away. Well,
You can't.
is that not what they're doing with the Department of Education? They're completely dismantling it, expecting it to get better. It's not the right logic. We already said that dismantling the police is not a good idea. Changing things, absolutely. So why wouldn't the Department of Education, our children? Because my concern here is that Texas is the state that produces the mass majority of the textbooks for all of the US. Okay. So that being said, they've already been sued and caught rewriting history, Dad. Rewriting history. You leave this shit to the states and they'll do what the hell they want to. And that's the fear.
What do you think
Not
the federal
only
government's doing?
I'm
The
not
people who are
saying
running,
I'm not saying that the current system is right. That's not, you know what I mean? Like I totally agree with changes need to be made, but cutting $3 billion over the course of 8 years out of the education system and completely dismantling it altogether, not the answer. Not That's not going to make anything better. Now you've got an already vulnerable system that wasn't working properly to begin with, to the states that have zero idea or capability of handling it, because it's done so quickly.